Hey, what's up? Today we're going to discuss The Post. The Post is a new Steven Spielberg movie, and I had great expectations going into this movie, and I was absolutely totally disappointed. The plot is based on a true story. There was a US military analyst named Daniel Ellsberg who released information to the public that said that while the government was telling everybody that the Vietnam War was going smoothly and better every day, the government had conducted internal investigations and found out that the war was actually going very poorly and was getting worse. But as far as the public knew, the war was going beautifully and it was going to be won soon. So Daniel Ellsberg released the analysis that suggested otherwise, that no, it's actually completely wrong and we're going to lose this war. So the way Daniel Ellsberg released this information was he and some of his friends, all of whom remained anonymous, only Ellsberg was the person who came public and was therefore in danger of being imprisoned. He and his friends made copies of it and dropped it off anonymously to different newspapers such as the New York Times, the Washington Post. They didn't go out and investigate it. Daniel Ellsberg took the information and dumped it on their desks anonymously. So the newspapers published this information, and then the government said, hey, you can't publish this information because this is top secret, and you must cease and desist or you'll be in contempt of court and we're going to, fine you, take you to jail, whatever. So these are the two stories. One is the story of Daniel Ellsberg, who released this information to the public. And the other story is the newspapers which published this information and was sued by the Justice Department. These are the two stories, okay? Daniel Ellsberg and the newspapers that published this story. One is a heroic story of one man versus the government. The other is a story about rich newspapers with lots of money, lots of lawyers, and lots of rich owners versus the government that they dine with and they have parties with every weekend. And Spielberg chose to tell the story of the rich newspaper versus the government. Not Daniel Ellsberg versus the government, but rich newspaper owners and famous editors who were the friends of John F. Kennedy and best friends with presidents. These people versus the government. That's the story that Spielberg chose to tell. So I found that to be extremely disappointing. If you're not somebody who's steeped in the history of the Vietnam War, if you haven't really followed that history, if you don't know who Daniel Ellsberg is or what the Pentagon Papers even stands for, you are not going to enjoy this movie. They show historical figures like Robert S. McNamara, who was the Secretary of Defense. They show Ben Bradley, who was the editor of the Washington Post at the time. And you are not going to know the significance of these people unless you know who Robert McNamara was, unless you know that Robert McNamara lied. And then later on at an interview at Harvard University, he said he was really sorry that he lied during the Vietnam War and he shouldn't have done it. But these people have historical significance and they never explain it in the movie. You don't understand who's important, who's not important. They never say, if somebody appears on screen for the first time, they don't even put a caption and say, hey, this guy is the Secretary of Defense under such and such administration. They never say anything about anybody. You're just supposed to know who these people are. And I'll tell you one thing, in the theater, everybody had gray hair and was over 60 years old. The theater was packed, but everybody was old. It seemed like these people lived through that time and came here to watch a movie about their childhood. But if you were somebody born in the 80s or 90s or the 2000s and, following history or the news is not really part of what you do every day, then good luck enjoying this movie because it's not going to happen. The other thing about this movie was this pretension. There was a pretension in this movie that is truly absent in Spielberg's movies. But in this movie, we're supposed to watch Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep, who everybody knows are great actors. But we're supposed to see them and be impressed. Like, oh, wow, look, it's Tom Hanks. Oh my God, look, another brilliant performance by Meryl Streep. Oh my God. They were impressive performances, but okay. So what? It just leaves you with this feeling that you're supposed to be more impressed with Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep than the story. And all Tom Hanks does is plays, some 50-year-old editor, and Meryl Streep plays this, aristocrat, a woman, and she talks in a certain way, and okay, great. The only good thing about this movie is I saw Matthew Rhys, who plays one of the Russian agents in the TV show The Americans, and this guy called Jesse Plemons, who I first saw in Breaking Bad, and then he was also in Fargo. He was brilliant in it. I love these two actors, and watching them in this movie was my only 2 moments of satisfaction. Literally. I'm going to give this movie a score of 4. I'm not even going to give it a 5 because I don't really think you should watch it. The story that should have been told should have been about Daniel Ellsberg, but they told this story about rich people surrounded by armies of lawyers who are supposedly brave. And if you watch this movie, you're going to get a wrong sense of history, so I don't think you should watch it. If you are interested, and if you really want to know the story of the Pentagon Papers, you should watch the documentary, The Most Dangerous Man in America. Not this movie. A 4 out of 10. While I love Spielberg, do not watch this movie. It's a complete waste of time. It's going to give you a wrong sense of history. Don't watch it.